Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to the Liquid Wisdom Podcast, where we take the fear out of everyday life, one episode at a time. So if you're not scared, let's jump into the deep end right now, and please, don't pee in the pool. What's going on, everyone? How's it going? You know, when we have these sort of projects where we bring people in, you know, I can't stay away from you guys for too long. So yes, we're bringing you another amazing conversation a week after the initial one. Today's conversation and episode is the start of the Giving of Yourself series, where over the next few weeks, I'm gonna have amazing people come in, share their stories, talk about what it means to give of yourself, and of course, issues that are very important for them. And hopefully from this conversation, you can pull something from it and feel inspired, and hopefully continue to spread the positivity and the good feelings. So let's get into today's special guest, the first of four. Now, this lovely woman, it needs no introduction, but I want to do it anyway because I want you to understand just how amazing she is. Now, she is a Babality host. She's a streamer on Twitch TV. She's a YouTube content creator, MK11 commentator, advocate for people with disabilities, and she's an animal lover as well. Please give a warm, resounding welcome to Molly B. What's going on? How you doing, sis?
Hi, I'm doing very well this evening, and thank you for that very, very kind and welcoming introduction. I'm excited to be here.
No, I'm happy to have you, though, because one of the coolest things about Molly is that she is one of the people in the community that I've been a part of for a little while, that really does typify what it means to give of yourself. And I gotta say, Molly, like you're inspirational to me, like, because there are some days when I'm not 100%, and then I see some of the things that you have to overcome, some of the things that you do for the community, and you do it out of the kindness of your heart. It's so freaking inspirational. So I just thank you for all of the work that you put in, all the energy you put out there, trying to create a beautiful environment for so many people in which they can thrive. Seriously.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I genuinely appreciate that. It is something that is important to me. And so I'm glad that comes across, and that people do feel some sort of positivity coming out of what I do.
No, because you're unapologetic about it, man. You're the real ticket. You are consistent with it. You're very genuine with it. You use your platform in such a way that it's not just one particular issue. You bring up so many issues that more people should be aware of, gender inequality, racial inequality, those sort of things, on top of the content you put out, and you do it. I don't know how, but you somehow are able to juggle all of those things and still provide amazing content and wear so many hats. But it's not surprising given what you do for the community. So it's just like, wow, I have to have her on here and talk with her. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to want to come down and have a conversation with me. It really means a lot.
Well, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here. So I think this project just sounded like an amazing idea. I think we can both agree that spreading positivity in this community is absolutely essential and very needed right now. So I'm very happy to be a part of this project and do that.
Okay, cool. Well, no, so before we get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation, I just got to ask, would you mind telling a little bit about yourself and what brought you to this point where you're, a content creator, host, all these amazing things? Like, so what is your origin story?
Well, sure, absolutely. Well, I guess I have kind of a non-traditional origin story for.
Oh, those are the best kind.
I started out a completely different walk of life. Okay. I was actually pursuing my PhD in anthropology, and I had previously been working as a teacher of history and philosophy and government political science in high school. And then I was going to go on to pursue my PhD in anthropology. So I had this whole kind of career path planned out, and basically what happened, which some people know about and you are aware of, is I ended up developing a chronic health condition known as endometriosis. And what goes along with that is also chronic intractable migraines, meaning they're not really
Mhm.
treatable. They're resistant to treatment.
Mm.
And endometriosis itself is, I'm not going to get into the details
Yeah.
too much, but it's also a disease without any cure, and that is progressive, and it causes quite a lot of pain and
Yeah.
exhaustion on a daily basis. And the consequence of this for me was that I had to give up that career, that line of work, because the way this works, and it's disabling in certain ways. I'm not really able to be productive for more than, say, maybe 5 or 6 hours a day at the most.
Wow.
It really limits what I can do in terms of movement, because it causes me to have to sit down or lay down quite a bit. So the sort of career that I had in mind, where I was working or would be working 14-hour days, commuting a lot, spending a lot of time on my feet, it's just not possible for me any longer. So I got to a point where I was basically staying at home a lot and just trying to figure out what to do with myself,
Yeah.
which is a big change if you're going from working, like I said, 14-hour days, just being constantly busy.
Yeah, for sure.
You're in
Yeah.
graduate school. Every 5 seconds you have on the bus or whatever, you need to take out your books and keep working on it. Going from that to being like, all right, I have all the free time in the world and I'm just home all the time. What do I do? And the first thing I actually got into was the content creation on YouTube and doing things like reaction videos.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I just always, from the time I was young, I was a really big fan of a lot of just TV shows, analyzing them, and also of gaming, of fighting games. But those were things that I really hadn't had time for in years because I'd been on this career path. So I thought, well, this is one thing that I can do, is I can get back into these hobbies of mine. And I'd been spending some time on YouTube, and I had been watching videos of other like TV show reactors, and also of content creators for Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat was the gaming series that I pretty much loved the most, and I'd loved since I was a kid.
Nice.
And I was
Nice.
a lot of content, gameplay content, from people like Losty Girl in particular. I was really like, I would watch every single one of her videos. I would go
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
like games, but I would just lurk. I wouldn't say anything. I would just be quiet and watching. And I would watch what she did in, say, MKX in particular, Mortal Kombat X, with Melina, and then I would go and I would learn from what she did, and I would try to do that myself in the game when I was playing. And
Student. Okay.
so at a certain point, after I was doing this, I was thinking, maybe I could try to make some videos for myself. People sometimes have said to me they're interested in my thoughts on TV shows or movies or whatever. And I like talking about them. So I sat down and I decided to make a reaction video series on the television show The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Um,
that was on Netflix, right?
Yes, on
Okay.
Netflix.
Okay.
Yes. And it went really well. I had a good time. I got to speaking to people in comments on my videos. I put together a small little following, and then people said when I was done, hey, you want to do some other shows? I was like, all right. So I started doing that. And as it progressed and was building positively, I thought, hey, maybe I could make some Mortal Kombat videos too. Maybe I could branch out into this, because I love Mortal Kombat and I loved Losty's videos. So
Yeah.
I started making some gameplay videos. And I finally took the brave step of commenting in some of Losty's streams. I basically, at that point, I started chatting more and more. I became a regular in her community, both in her streams and her Discords, got to know a lot of people. And I really did that for quite a while without doing anything else, probably about a year, with just doing my reaction videos and hanging out in Losty's streams.
Okay.
And then at one point, Losty said to me, hey, Molly, there's like some communities of women in the fighting game community overall that, they get together and they play. And with Mortal Kombat 11 coming out, maybe you want to reach out to some of them and see if you could be involved in that, because it seems like, you make friends in this community that might be fun for you.
Yeah.
And so I did. What I did was she put me in touch with the ladies of Babality, and this was right before Mortal Kombat 11 was about to come out. And they welcomed me in as a potential player. and I just started going to their weekly Queen of the Hill events and playing and participating and getting to know the girls.
Yeah.
And then eventually, Lumia, who was one of the heads of Babality, put out a call to all the women in the community and said, hey, is anybody here interested in trying to commentate? Because she herself needed to step back some, take some days off. And so she wanted to find some other women who potentially could help out. And I thought, maybe I could give that a try. I'm used to speaking in front of people. I was a teacher. I know how to do
yeah. So that's yeah.
Yeah, I thought, why not give it a try? She gave me a chance. I loved it. I had a ton of fun with it. And then I started doing that regularly. And that kind of caught on. People started to notice me for my commentating. Losty started asking me to commentate first to tens with her on her stream. I got asked to do some tournaments, and I made a lot of friends with women in the Babality community. And I started just going and hanging out in all of their streams too. And through that, I met a ton of people. I basically became a mod in like 30 different stream channels because I'd go in and help people out. And one of the big things is I would want to, kind of, I guess, be protective of my friends if I saw some inappropriate things happening in the chat.
For sure,
so a lot of people, started giving me mods, and I just met a lot of people, became friends with them, and then a lot of them suggested to me, hey, why don't you start actually streaming your gameplay sometime too? So then I branched out into that, and now basically here we are. Just a couple years later, I go from being a PhD student and teacher to somehow being a YouTube content creator and a Twitch streamer and a commentator and like a mod in 30 different MK channel streams. And but it's been fantastic, because for me, I was in a place where I had no idea what I was going to do with myself, and I was pretty cut off socially from the world in a lot of respects, because I had to be at home, most of the time.
Yeah.
And this has given me an opportunity to just make a lot of friends and find something positive that I can do that I feel good about. And yeah, so I mean, here I am now, this couple years later.
Wow. So, okay, so during your amazing origin story, you was explaining it. I'm just over here trying to fanboy out. I was like, wait a minute, I'm in the presence of an educator. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think for a lot of and you can probably attest to this as well. Being an educator, I feel like it's one of those more called positions in life. Like, you have to love the joy. You have to have a certain joy to do it, because it takes a lot to get up out of bed. Get up out of bed every morning. You go to the brick and mortar school or university, wherever you're teaching. You're in charge of all these different minds over the course of a school year, and you have to help them highlight their weaknesses and, of course, bring out the best in them. And some days you don't want to, some days you're not going to want to do it, but you still do it because of the joy of doing it. And so it makes a lot of sense now for me. So it's like, oh, no wonder you're just oozing all kinds of cool, because you come in your former profession, you were an educator. You were leading minds and planting seeds of inspiration and joy. And so that's why it's second nature to you now. So now that you transitioned over into your newfound career as a content creator, both through YouTube and your other various jobs that you do throughout the community, it makes so much sense now. And so I guess which brings me to my the first question I have. I gave my perspective on what giving yourself means. So to you, Molly, what does giving of yourself mean in your perspective, in your words?
Yeah, I'd say for me, and I guess this is something that also goes back to teaching, like you said, and transitions over into what I do or try to do in the FGC. Giving of myself is mostly a combination of just being there for people, being present to start with, and then trying to be aware of what it is that those people possibly need, and what it is that I can potentially do to just kind of lift their spirits, make their life better, make their life easier. I don't think that there's any specific concrete example.
Exactly.
Something like, oh, you give of yourself in terms of, financially, or you give of yourself in terms of giving advice, or whatever, as specific different things you could do. But I think that you need to be aware of what it is that the specific people you're in contact with need, because it's going to vary. So for me, giving of yourself is about focusing on the other people, focusing on those people as individuals, realizing what it is that they specifically need, not just having a broad idea of how I can help, but what do they need, and then figuring out how to try to give them what they need in a way that you can. So really, a lot of it is about just empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and then trying to make their situation better in whatever way they need it to be done.
No, that is 100% spot on. I love your take on it, and as with someone like myself who's always trying to be a consummate student, just never stop learning, and to know that this is what you used to do. So it's like I said, I feel like the universe is answering some long forgotten wish. I'm like, oh wow, I get to talk to an educator. Like it's always a very enthralling, very engaging conversation, speaking to someone who, because you said you said history and anthropology, right? So you were going, wow, in which two subject matters in which culture and people and engagement, conversations in sometimes different languages are all important to creating the pillars in which we grow different cultures. So what's it like for you being a part of this newfound culture, as you have essentially planted roots here, and of course become a consummate presence of calmness and resonance throughout the community in which you preside?
Well, I'd say at first, it was mostly just kind of interesting. That is one thing. Approaching all of this from the perspective of an anthropologist or anthropology student, teacher, researcher, all of those hats, is that you do kind of come in and want to observe what's happening around you. And it was interesting because it's certainly a very different sort of community than what I've been used to in the past, particularly because so much of it is centered on the online experience, which is a very different kind of relationship building environment than a lot of what I've been used to. But for me also, in addition to that, coming into it and trying to I guess find my space or build something, it's been kind of it's I wouldn't say that it's been a challenge. It's just been kind of exciting to sort of figure out and try to have to map your own way, because when you go into a field, something like education, there's a basic structure there, right? But it also is something where you are pushed to try and sort of shape the environment in whatever particular way you think it should be shaped. It's not kind of, I don't think a lot of people maybe know this, but it's not necessarily cookie cutter. It's not like going off a script. You have to build the appropriate environment for the people that you're with, and it's constantly, changing and in flux. So I feel like that's certainly been something that I've seen here and experienced here. So it's been kind of, there's like ups and downs. Sometimes it's like a bumpy road. But I'd say for the most part, it's just been both interesting, kind of observing the culture, but like I said, also exciting being a part of, especially building the kind of women's community that we've been forming over the past year or so in the FGC has been extremely fulfilling for me. Seeing more and more women start their own streams and be successful with their own streams, and cheering them on, seeing more and more women openly come out and be competitive, competing in tournaments and having success there as well. Seeing more women coming out and being supporters of other women. So we kind of have a little group of of FGC women, particularly those that play NRS games, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, those games.
Yeah.
And we basically have kind of made a commitment that we'll all try and show up for one another's streams and cheer each other on and support each other in whatever ways that we need, whether it be telling other horrible people and trolls to back off, or just bringing some positivity to them if they're feeling down on a particular day.
Yeah.
And it's been really kind of heartwarming and captivating to see that this is becoming more and more successful. Like, the community is becoming stronger and stronger, and you see a lot of women who a year or so ago were very, hesitant, nervous about even being vocal in chats, kind of like I was a couple years ago, now being very outspoken and confident. And I think a lot of that comes from us having built up this kind of safe community of support,
very important.
where they know that, even if other people are being kind of awful, I still have this group of people behind me that are going to encourage me and help me if I'm having a bad day. So for me, that's been very fulfilling and exciting to see.
No, it really is. No, I actually wanted to touch on that, if you don't mind. So essentially, what you and so many other women have created, and I didn't know this was form a result of a year's worth of, like you said, commitment to each other, to the message. It's laying the foundation, planting the seeds, that sort of thing. So one of the coolest things is, I guess, it's like being inspired by others. So one for what I've observed from you, Molly, in particular, is with your platform, and to whomever would listen, you are unapologetic about the issues that you shed light on. And one of the prevalent issues that should be addressed, of course, is gender equality, correct? So yes. What are some of the things that you've seen based on the inspirations that some women like yourself have had, and I don't want to say courage, but I guess shedding light to it? What are some things that you feel like could take place now? I mean, just this is a result of a year's worth of work. So imagine 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and then everyone coming in saying, you know what? Yeah, let's make some changes where people can feel comfortable. Let's make some changes where people can feel secure. Honestly, what is it? What do you think it's going to take? Because because it's like, at least for me, it's like I never, like, I've been on, like I told you before, I've been on teams with plenty of women who are incredibly gifted, and it would just inspire us, like, yo, like, this is a cool person. Never say, oh boy, he's a girl. It's I don't know. So I want to give you the floor. So just in your own words, what do you feel like it could really take?
Well, I guess I'll start off by saying one of the reasons that people, or a lot of the women, kind of felt like this was necessary is because, even like a year or so ago when I was first coming into babality, and although I guess it's more like a year and a half now, it's been a while.
Wow. Okay.
But there weren't a lot of women in the NRS scene that really streamed or that competed in tournaments, or even were creating content on YouTube about their gameplay or anything along those lines. It just honestly wasn't that common to see, and a lot of the reason was because of the hurdles that women have faced in getting into these communities, being treated with respect, and not being subject to really horrific behavior, whether it be outright sexual assault at conventions, which is and at tournaments, which has happened multiple times to women in this community over the years, or just down to sexism, hostility in chat, if participating in tournaments or on streams, having even sometimes commentators saying inappropriate things. There's just women that I've spoken to can tell you stories of every sort of possible thing that they've heard from people. Some of it, you just let roll off your back, some more serious than others, but from things like comments on Lostie's videos where people will say, oh, she can't possibly be playing. She's got a man playing for her. That's why you can't see her shoulders. A guy's actually playing that. Women can't play that well. She's just faking it. To comments saying that women who want to stream are just, e-thoughts, and they don't actually care about the game, and they're not good at the game, and they're just doing it to get male attention or to get money. To people who are just subjected to, oh, well, yes, you're good and you beat me at this game, but that's probably because you're fat and ugly and no man wants you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have time for
Wow,
this. Or two comments
man.
like, you shouldn't be playing Mortal Kombat. That's a man's game. You should go play The Sims, or you should go play Candy Crush. All sorts of possible things, from those things down to, outright being stalked and having people be obsessed with you and look up your personal information and try to contact you, finding out your name,
Oh, they're
like where
taking
you
it this
live,
far
all
now?
that sort of stuff.
Gee,
Oh yes,
man.
and that's something that has happened to me and to multiple other women in this community as well. It's extremely
Sheesh.
common. So these are all just some examples that I could throw out way more, but it would take up the whole night.
Right.
Of the kind of things that are impediments to women coming forward and being a part of gaming communities. And as I said, even just like a little over a year ago, there were very few women who were actively competing or who were actively streaming or making content
Right.
about games in the NRS scene, at least. And a lot of that was because of these things. So you had people like, you had Losty Girl, you had Romanova, you had like a few bold women who were out there, SMG Princess on YouTube, who were just putting this stuff out there and just basically dealing with it and fighting back against it and being kind of the stepping stones that the rest of us have been able to build off of. So with Babality, we had Lumia and Manushka, who were the founders of Babality, basically kind of like a safe place where women could just basically
be themselves,
play
right?
with each other. Right. You were being yourselves because you were just playing with each other, and you would know that nobody in that community was going to say any of those things that I just mentioned or do any of those things to you. You could just play, get better, level up, encourage one another. And so that's what we tried to do and built out from there, because as more of the women in the community gained confidence and started feeling like they could do something, they went out and started their own streams. So you'd see like Hannah Rose Dav, or Saki Sakura, starting their own streams, and of course that's a frightening thing. But then all the rest of us from Babality were like, all right, well, we're gonna come and hang out in your stream and we'll start supporting you. And that just snowballed until you have more and more and more women starting to take a chance and do this as they saw other women doing it and being successful.
Wow.
And even when they were being harassed, having people come in and support them and say, no, stop, leave them alone. So it's been kind of a process. But even with what we have now that I mentioned, the like community that we formed where we try and have each other's backs, where I mean we have some big group chats with just all the girls, and we just talk to each other every day about if anything bad happens, we can come in and everyone will talk it through and try to support each other.
Like a safe space for just to express some of the issues you've been dealing with, where maybe if you felt like you did it in a public setting, may get ridiculed for it, but at least with what the environment that you women created for each other, it's cliche to say, but it's like no judgment or anything like that. Like, hey, it's okay, share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
And you can get advice from other women who maybe have experienced it before.
Right.
And saying, hey, this guy was bothering me in particular. Anybody heard of him? Oh yeah, he bothered me before too. And so you can kind of get a sense of maybe who's possibly actually threatening and who's just a troll. So there's a lot of positivity that comes from that sort of connection.
That's beautiful.
And so I feel like moving forward, because that's where we are at right now. Which is
exactly.
way better than we were a year or so ago even. I think part of what we need to do is now continue supporting some of the more organizational structural systems that are coming out with the idea of supporting women professionally. So we kind of have these systems we built up to support women, I guess, kind of emotionally, personally, encouragement wise. But now we're starting to see the birth of some organizations like Kunoichi, for example. Valkyries was another one, which are specifically designed to encourage women in our community to become professional competitors, to go and participate in tournaments, provides funding for them to do it, provides a platform for them to do it. creates specific tournaments to give them an opportunity to come out there into the public light. So we just had the Xbox women's Kunoichi tournament on CGL just the other night. And it was fantastic. It gave an opportunity for women who have never competed in tournaments before to come out, and kind of like with Babality, they felt comfortable competing in this tournament against all other women because they didn't think they were going to experience any sort of harassment or negativity, even if maybe they weren't as strong as some of the other competitors. They were just going to get experience, encouragement, and then meet some people that they could then train with going forward. And that's kind of what these structural systems are starting to do, but they're still very small. So, I mean, you have Kunoichi currently has 5 women members, Kunoichi on CGL, and Valkyries also has a handful, but for the most part, even they don't have like much in terms of financial backing or anything along those lines. It's mostly just trying to assist with networking connections, things like that. So I think that going forward, continuing to push for trying to build off of that to actually provide things like paid sponsorships, try and give women opportunities in tournaments is one thing that we can try to do. I know that's going to be controversial to some people because there's some people out there that are even not happy that we had just an all women's tournament to begin with, saying that that sort of thing is sexist towards men. But that's very much not what it's about. It's about trying to give women opportunities when they would not be comfortable even trying to do something like this without having a more safe environment to start in.
I mean, for all the people.
So I think that that's one thing that really we could do. Other things that we could do is simply, honestly, for a lot of the men in the community to really just start stepping up. And calling out inappropriate behavior from other men when they see it.
True.
Now, there are some guys that are great about doing this, but I know that there's a lot of guys that are still kind of afraid to do it, even if they are totally in support of gender equality, even if they're friends with the women in the community and they don't like seeing them get harassed or bothered or anything, that they are kind of afraid of coming out and saying, hey, that was sexist, don't do that, no, that's not okay, hey, that was sexist, you're banned from my stream now if you do that again.
Yeah, just common sense and respect.
Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of guys that unfortunately don't want to do that because they're afraid that they themselves will be made fun of, be made to look bad, that they will lose their audience and their support. So I think that another just honestly big thing is more men in the community have to be willing to step up and be brave and support those things and call those things out. I want to give a shout out to a couple people, Video Games Yo and Big
What's
Daddy
up?
G, who have some streams. They are very much in support of this, in favor of this. And if anybody comes in and starts spewing anything sexist at anyone, they're out of there immediately, you know, and they will call it out and say that's not okay. Even if it's quote unquote a joke, the guy says, oh, it's just a joke. No, that's not okay.
When no one's laughing.
You have to have people who are vocally like in support of that. And then the rest of the community needs to rally behind those guys too. So if like there's some backlash against them, if they start to do something like that, you need to get behind them, support them, say, no, this is a good person. They aren't doing it just because they're a simp or whatever other ridiculous thing you have people out there saying. This is the right way to be. So I think that's another major thing that we could do going forward is just kind of pushing the guys. And then the other thing, honestly, is better moderation in the communities and putting together some guidelines,
actual structure,
tournament organizers in the FGC can share that is going to be protecting women if we ever again have in-person tournaments.
I hope so, but yeah, I get it, yeah.
But if we ever again have those in-person tournaments or even say conventions, anything along those lines, we need kind of a shared set of guidelines that all TOs will agree to abide by that make it more of a safe environment for women, so that if there's any sort of harassment at all, any sort of inappropriate behavior, you can be certain that that person will be removed from the scene, banned from the scene, that you'll have safety security measures in place. You know, it's just, these seem like kind of like you said before, these seem like very commonsensical things that you'd think that maybe would already be there,
I mean,
but unfortunately are not. But
unfortunately,
that's
yeah.
very simple things that we could do that would make it much easier for women to continue to thrive in the scene, and for more and more women to come forward and be successful. And so then, you know, instead of having a women's tournament where there's maybe only 20 people coming out to compete because there's only 20 people that are, you know, willing to step out there, the hundreds of women who actually play Mortal Kombat might be willing to take that chance and come out and compete.
No, I hope it does. I mean, I think like you said, you know, throughout this entire conversation, it comes down to a few things. Just, and correct me, and feel free to interject whenever you feel like I may misspeak, right? Of course, it's common sense, decency, respect, and being inspired by others to do the right thing, even if it's not the most popular thing. Like I told you before we started recording, like I said, I've been a part of plenty of sports teams where it was a men's and women's team, like, you know, with cross country and track and that sort of thing. And our coaches said, look, to the person next to you, this is your teammate. You encourage each other, respect each other, and support one another. Like, that's essentially what it was. So, you know, arriving in this community, after seeing the example set up by other pro athletes in other communities like the NBA, of course, with the WNBA and other women's sports that are becoming more highlighted more and more, it kind of startled me a little bit. Where I was like, wait, this is competitive gaming or content creation. Like, this is one of the places where you thought it was going to be the most normalized thing, but then you see more and more. It's because not everyone is doing it, but it's the number of people that are engaging in behavior that's making an unsafe space is getting up there. And so yeah, I think like you said, I think a uniformed policy where it's a universal thing, all TOs across the country, across the world can come up with some guidelines to actually create a deterrent for behaviors such as that, and create a more consistent environment where people feel inclusive, people feel safe, and people are there to do the one thing that they love the most, which is to compete and play the games they love. And maybe even make some memories with friends, and, you know, and look back on it and have a good laugh. Like that's the goal of it all, right? But you know, I hope that with this year, with the ups, with a lot of the downs that we've been experiencing, I hope that as a community, whatever community you're a part of, that you can reflect on this and hope to be the change you want, and to encourage and use your platform in the way to provide more awareness, and so people can feel safe when they want to do the things that they enjoy. Seriously. but see, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing, Molly. Like, you do so much. You say you only can be active for it's about 5 or 6 hours before the fatigue sets in due to a lot of things that you deal with.
Yes.
So during that time, in which you give so much of yourself to the community that you love so much, both as a former educator and as a woman that really wants to encourage other women to be loved and be secured and be respected, most and foremost. What are some of the things that you do in order to keep yourself from getting too burnt out? Like, what are some things that you do to avoid that sort of thing happening to you?
I mean, this is very important. You see this happening. I mean, you see this happening to people in every profession, but I've seen it happen to a lot of content creators, even just over the past few months.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it kind of makes sense that it's been especially hard for people given the quarantine situation. There's not as many outlets that maybe you once had to kind of get away from it all. But I mean, for me, honestly, part of what I do to try to avoid getting burnt out myself is and this is gonna sound maybe strange, as though it's not a break, but is to spend more time in the streams of other people who are just positive and cheerful, and where you feel safe and comfortable. Because for me, you know, my actually streaming myself or practicing my games or filming my videos, editing my videos, all of that,
Yeah.
that is fun, but it's also work. But if I can just go and sit down in front of like my laptop and lay
Just
down on my bed
relax.
and yes, relax and just put on one of my friends who are positive streams, put on, Big Daddy G's stream, or, put on Hannah Rose Dav's stream, or, somebody, Losty Girl stream, and just lay back and kind of let the positivity soak over you, chat with friends who are there in the chat. It honestly, for me, even though I'm modding and I'm trying to, be helpful too, and also be uplifting to others, it does the same thing for me. It's also refreshing for me. So I think, and I've actually said this to other friends of mine in the community when they start to get burned out, not just on content creation, but burned out on the game, because there's a lot of people that are getting burned out, on the game they play for content creation. And that's not a good place to be in either. Is that when you start to be there, go hang out in the streams, positive people who love the game, who are going to be saying positive things, who are going to have great energy, who are going to be welcoming to you and make you feel good. And then that will kind of make you feel both uplifted as a person, like, hey, I'm wanted here, I have friends, I'm having a good time, make you feel relaxed, and also kind of maybe give you a boost to want to get back in the game again. Because
heck yeah,
you see other people playing the game and having fun, that's obviously going to make you feel better than if you see people playing the game and being mad and miserable. So for me, I mean, that's one thing that I do. And then the other thing really, which you kind of mentioned in the beginning, is that I'm an animal lover, and I take care of a lot of like stray and homeless cats.
Okay.
Provide shelter for them, get them food, and of course spayed and neutered in their vaccinations, and just make sure that they have somewhere safe to be cared for. And that for me is very relaxing and very fulfilling, and
like therapeutic, right?
From this sort of environment altogether. You go from constant online and gaming stuff to just being with animals, away from that altogether.
Right.
And that that is something that just helps me, gives me a break. I think that's, if you can find, but it's kind of interesting in the way, because it's also a kind of sort of giving, really.
It is,
right?
Given
Because
time,
it's a way of like taking care. And I think that really is what it comes down to me. When I'm focused on myself and my work, I can get really burned out. But if I'm focused on trying to help others or take care of others, whether it be my friends in this community or my students in the past or these cats, that's different. That actually gives me energy. So those are the things that I like to do to help myself if I start to get burned out in other things.
Wow, that is, man, Molly, you might need to write you a book or something, sis. Like, you might need to write you a book, man. I'm telling you, because I was over here, and I'm not afraid to say it, even though we recording. I took some notes. So I came in for a conversation. You end up giving one of the most such an amazing conversation and lecture on life. Like, I've learned just by having this conversation with you. I learned so much about the plight that, though I want to, of course, support it, I was unaware of, because of course it's a new experience for me. And I also learned, a lot of things that we can do, and it really, all it takes is a handful of people to get it going, and just look up and see how much progress you can truly make when you do want to make a lasting change. And I really hope we do get to a point in this lifetime. If this year has taught us anything, life is short, man. So if we can start creating a better tomorrow today, let's do that. let's do that.
Take the opportunity while you have the chance, because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Of 100%. I just, wow. Thank you for coming in. I'm really glad that you kicked this off. You coming in first.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you here. I don't know if I mentioned this while we're recording, but Molly said, "Hey, I'm ready to go. Like, are you ready?" I'm like, "Oh shoot, okay. Let me get myself together." Like I said, it's just, this whole experience with you has been it's been a gift. It's truly been a real blessing, and I would be remiss if I did not ask you to please, before you go, to drop any notable social media handles that you want, so that these amazing listeners can follow such an amazing woman of many talents and helping people reach their dreams. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, so I stream on Twitch. My Twitch name is Molly_B, so BEE. You can follow me on Twitter at MollyAmberB, and my YouTube channel is Molly B Reacts. So you can find my reaction videos and also my Mortal Kombat content there. I actually also have a Patreon that is also Molly B Reacts, where I provide, like, say, extended versions of all of my videos, early access to things, so, and various other little tidbits. So if anybody's interested, that is there. And yeah, I'm just, thank you so much for having me here today. It's been fun. I'm so excited to be a part of this project, and I appreciate the opportunity to reach out to people and maybe meet some new people in the process too.
I hope so. No, that's the goal. To inspire others, even if just one person a day at a time. You never know what sort of impact a smile, a hi, an encouraging word, doing what you do by creating safer spaces. You don't know how many lives you touch by just putting forth time, energy, effort, love in order to make this beautiful world more beautiful, despite all the gray clouds that surround it, So, like, Molly, I appreciate you being here. It has truly been an honor to have you here. Like, seriously, you got to come back. You got to come back.
Absolutely.
I would love to have you back.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Cool. Wow. And time is of no consequence when you're having fun with amazing people. I didn't even know how long we were recording. I didn't really care. But honestly, I would just engage in the conversation. So that concludes this week's conversation. Please don't forget to follow Molly on all her social media handles. She is worth the follow. You will not be disappointed. And when you see what she puts out there, when you see the amount of work she puts into this community, everything she said today will be crystal clear in clarity and an understanding when you see what this woman does. So on behalf of Molly and myself, I've been your host, Professor Liquid. Like I always tell you before we leave, you're only a couple of decisions away from discovering your purpose and maximizing your potential. Until next time we talk, take care of each other and be well. All right. Pool hours are over. Don't want you catching a cramp. Tell you what, come on back for a swim soon and we can catch up on life. In the meantime, check me out on Twitter at FormlessLiquid. You can also find this podcast on Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many others. Just type in Liquid Wisdom Podcast and boom, you're there. Catch you later.